Part 24. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 241. What's wrong? Mr. Jing stared at Xiaoyuan expressionlessly. They are all relatives of your family. If you don't help, why don't you see others helping? Grandpa Jing, I'm following orders. If it wasn't for the sake of the Zhou family, how could they get the luggage now? When did Zhou Mikang help me? But now, I'm taking the initiative to help his father-in-law's family with their work problem. Xiaoyuan sighed with an aggrieved face. I've already done this, and Grandpa Jing said I wouldn't help. Hey. As expected of the Xiao family, the red mouth and white teeth take credit for being shameless, thanks to him for being able to do it. Mr. Jing was too lazy to reason with him, so he nodded. Since you care about the Zhou family so much, you should take your people back. I will take care of everything here. Grandpa Jing, this is really inappropriate. Xiaoyuan smiled shyly. You always make it difficult for me, but to be honest, you always tell me the truth. You are helping me now. After all, it is for the sake of the Zhou family. Or the Lin family. Jing Zhe glared at him. Xiaoyuan, shut up that dung-spitting mouth of yours. What did I say? Xiaoyuan spread his hands with a meaningful smile. Jing Zhe, what did I say? Originally, I really didn't think much about it. Now that you jumped out like this, I really have to think about it up. However, I really don't understand your behavior. The Jing family can be regarded as a prestigious family, and Yu Jingzhe is a promising young man that many good girls stare at. Why did you take a fancy to the woman Zhou Mikang used? Xiaoyuan, Jingzhe yelled angrily, and rushed towards Xiaoyuan. Xiaoyuan was not afraid of Jingzhe, who was a doctor. Not only did he not retreat, but he also raised his fist to meet him. Seeing the two quickly scuffle together, Mr. Jing caressed his forehead speechlessly. I still can't hold my breath. Hey. If you don't have a hair on your mouth, you can't do things well, he said and looked at Mr. Wang. Brother Wang, Chu Xia is also your god-granddaughter, so why don't you? Are you going to keep watching jokes like this? He can't beat Xiaozhe. Old Master Wang glanced at the two wrestling together. It's not too late, let Xiaozhe speak first. It turns out that Mr. Wang, who has always been serious, is also a person who is afraid of chaos in the world just like himself. In an instant, Mr. Jing felt that he had met a bosom friend. The serious old man who pretended for a long time. But he was exhausted. He lightly punched Mr. Wan's chest with his fist, and Mr. Jing smiled like a fox. Brother, let's play together from now on. Mr. Wan has black hair. Does this Mr. Jing treat himself as a child and play with him? However, it's not bad to have such a relaxed old man as a companion. Thinking of this, he nodded. Okay. Unlike their ease. Everyone is so nervous right now. The four people brought by Xiaoyuan wanted to go up to help. But with Mr. Jing standing here, how dare they charge up? After all, they didn't have much dealings with Xiaoyuan before, and they weren't Xiaoyuan's die-hard loyalists. At times like this, the first thing you think about is your own safety. Chu Xia has been staring at the two wrestling together, especially thinking of finding a chance to make up for Xiaoyuan. Meow meow, dare to insult her. Snort. She will settle this account with him forever with interest. As for the members of the Lin family and others, I was panicked at first, and now I am even more panicked. Even if they were from a small place, they could already tell that Xiaoyuan belonged to the popular faction, otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to come and seal the Zhou family's door. As for who always accompanied Chu Xia, they didn't know, but they knew from Xiaoyuan's attitude that they might not be much higher than the Zhou family. Well, now it's fighting again. What if the family is arrested again? Well, capturing them in is not what they care about the most. What they care about is, after they are captured, what will Chu Xia do? Zhao Qian and Lin Xiahua stood there even more dumbfounded. The big tree they just climbed looks like it will be beaten to death. Should they help or not?
Help.
What if I hurt myself? Not help. Can you still find work for them? The two women stood there blushing and turning white, which was called a tangle. Okay, seeing that Xiao Yuan's face was full of color, and the mouth that had been swearing all the time stopped uttering a word, Mr. Jing quickly stopped shouting. The Xiao family was popular, and he did too much, so that the old dog of the Xiao family bit him. It's too annoying. Forgive you this time. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will also knock out your remaining teeth. Jing Zhe took a step back, pointing at Xiao Yuan bitterly. Hearing what he said, Chu Xia, who originally wanted to go up and make a few punches, poked his head and looked at Xiao Yuan's face curiously, which happened to meet Xiao Yuan's gaze. What are you looking at? Damn girl, wait, I will definitely let you. The Zhou family is ashamed of you. Looks like you can't keep those teeth anymore. If you dare to bully my sister, you really don't want to live. Jing Zhe went up again with his fists, and Xiao Yuan ran away in fright, yelling, Jing Zhe, wait, I won't show you the courage of a man. Just wait, if I don't punish you, my surname will not be Xiao. When Xiao Yuan's four subordinates saw it, they quickly ran after him. Zhao Qian and Lin Xiahua looked at each other, and also chased after them. Mr. Ye happened to see the scene when he came out of the yard. He was stunned for a moment, then looked at Mr. Jing. It's only been a while, what's the matter? Lao Ye, don't you also want to take this opportunity to step on it? Old man Jing glanced at him with displeasure on his face. We can't be so unkind. Mr. Ye stared and interrupted him. What are you talking about? Is my old Ye so narrow-minded? Didn't I want to help that kid from the Xiao family not to sell my face, so I made a phone call and asked my boss to transfer a car. When the car comes back, it will probably be back in about 10 minutes, he said, and looked at the relatives of the Lin family. Everyone wait a little longer, and we will definitely send you back today. Brother Ye, you're like this. Mr. Zhao's grateful lips trembled. Let's say something. Alas, I knew we wouldn't come here to make trouble. We wouldn't be able to help, it would just add to the chaos. As well as Big Brother Jing and this Big Brother, thank you very much. The old lady Zhao stepped forward and took Jing Zhe's hand. Xiao Zhe, you are so protective of Chu Xia, the people of the Zhao family are grateful to you, but, will it affect your family? Mr. Wang quickly answered, don't worry, old sister, they won't be implicated. I can assure you of this matter. Mrs. Zhao hurriedly thanked, thank you so much. Who are these? Luo Xiaoxian whispered into Chu Xia's ear. What happened in a short while had already made her brain a mess. I'll talk to you later, but they are all my godfathers now, hey. With a slight sigh, Chu Xia said, Zhou Mikang arranged for me before the accident. After hesitating for a while, Luo Xiaoxian still said, it is said that I should be moved by the fact that the leader protects you so much, but I can't be moved. Is he being too unkind? He knew something was going to happen to the Zhou family, so why? Still have to marry you. He doesn't know either. Chu Xia sighed helplessly. If he knew, how could he be so caught off guard? A family like the Zhou family can't get any wind in advance. Luo Xiaoxian's eyes widened instantly. How big of a deal is that? No. The sky is going to change, right? Chu Xia, who knew the direction of the future generations, of course had no fear of this, so he patted her with a smile. Don't worry, it's fine. Luo Xiaoxian only thought that she had the inside information, and the fear on her face disappeared instantly, but her expression was still apprehensive. That's right. How could a child who grew up in this age be so optimistic about this kind of thing as Chu Xia? While the two of them were whispering, the old men had already arranged for all the relatives of the Lin family to get into the car. It was the old man Wan who made the decision to use this car. If something happened, he would. Before getting into the car, Mrs. Zhao pulled Chu Xia aside, gave some instructions in a low voice, and then got into the car with Grandpa Zhao full of worries. The car drove a long way, and everyone in the car was still depressed. They acted very calm, in fact, they were too scared to speak. Including Luo Gangshun and Zhao Yishan, not to mention the others. Glancing at the crowd, Mr. Zhao sighed, "Everyone, don't put on a sad face. The Zhou family is in a temporary catastrophe, and it will pass. No one can say anything about it when we go back. Pretend to be a joke for me, come smile. Dad, at this time, if Bao He and Yulan stay here, will something happen?" Zhao Yishan asked anxiously. "It'll be fine. They have Mr. Wan taking care of them. Those people are all capable people. If they don't have the diamond, they won't take the porcelain job. Don't worry, they will be fine." "That's good, that's good." Although he said so, it was clear from his expression that his heart was not really let go. Zhou Hanliang took a glance from the rear view, and said, "Grandpa Zhao said that there is nothing to worry about. With the care of Grandpa Jing and Grandpa Wan, nothing will happen. I can't go into details, anyway. I never lie, believe me, this matter will pass quickly." "Well, we believe." "Yes, of course we do." "Yeah, I believe it means I believe it, but I still worry about it anyway." Director Zhou doesn't mind. Listening to everyone's gossip, Mr. Zhao and Mrs. Zhao looked at Jian, feeling a little helpless. How can they really feel relieved? But, what if you don't worry? To be honest, although they are from a small place, they have lived to this age and have seen a lot of things. How can it be so easy to solve the Zhou family's stall this time? However, if they had any worries at first, now that those two old men recognized Chu Xia as their granddaughter, they were really relieved. How can old men of that age make fun of such things? The only thing that makes them feel uneasy now is Zhao Qian's mother and daughter. Although they said it harshly at the time, they are a family after all. If something really happens to these two women, how can they not be sad? First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 242. It's been late for the past 2 days, and it will be early tomorrow. Zhao Qian and Lin Ziahua's mother and daughter were standing at the door of the guest house at this time. They caught up with Xiao Yuan and climbed into the car. They didn't dare to make a sound along the way. The mother and daughter could see that Xiao Yuan, whose face was beaten blue and whose mouth was swollen like a pig's mouth, "I'm in a bad mood." If they hadn't offended the Zhao family and the Lin family by what they said earlier, they wouldn't be rushing to get into trouble now. At this point, how could they retreat? Being thrown in this unfamiliar place, both Zhao Qian and Lin Ziahua panicked. When they received their mother's gaze, Zhao Qian held the car door tightly before the car started, and looked at Xiao Yuan pitifully. "Brother, what should we do? What kind of job? How can I find you? Brother, you can't leave us alone." Xiao Yuan turned her head and glanced coldly. Zhao Qian flinched unconsciously. For the first time, she regretted a little about her choice. Xiao Yuan wouldn't have bothered to talk to them if he hadn't planned to use the mother and daughter. Seeing that Zhao Qian was about to collapse, he turned around and nodded his chin at the little man sitting beside him. "Director, don't worry, I promise to complete the task." After solemnly assuring Xiao Yuan, the little man opened the door and got out of the car, and the car drove away in a hurry. The car drove away suddenly, and Zhao Qian, who was defenseless at all, fell to the ground. She got up in a panic, and looked at the little man with tears in her eyes. "Brother, I'm sorry." Should be the man smiled at her. "My name is Lu Zhenqiang. I'm Director Xiao's soldier, you too. Come with me," he said, leading the way to the guest house. "Comrade Lu." "Thank you," Lin Ziahua hurriedly said. "Auntie, don't be too polite with me while speaking." Lu Zhenqiang had already brought his mother and daughter into the guest house. A woman in her 40s was sitting behind the table, lazily eating melon seeds. When she saw Lu Zhenqiang, she hurriedly standing up with a smile, Zhenqiang. Why are you here? Lu Zhenqiang pointed to the mother and daughter behind him and introduced, Director Xiao asked me to bring these two comrades. Aunt Li, please help me arrange them. The woman called Aunt Li looked at the mother and daughter with a smile on her face. Welcome, welcome, we happen to be short of people here, and the two comrades are here, but they are of great help. Hearing what the other party said, the mother and daughter's originally disturbed expression suddenly relaxed. This is a good job that they didn't expect. In their place, only the relatives of the Cotter's family can go to work in the guest house. Humph, now. Let's see who dares to underestimate them. Aunt Li. My name is Lin Ziahua. My name is Zhao Qian. The two were eager to introduce themselves, and Aunt Li smiled awkwardly. You too. Call me Li Wanwan. She fixed her eyes on Lin Ziahua. I'm not as old as you. Lin Ziahua quickly waved her hand. It's okay, it's okay. I don't care. This. Li Wanwan looked at Lu Zhenqiang, although the mother and daughter were not very good looking. But she didn't dare to make a mistake until she figured it out. Lu Zhenqiang said, Comrade Lin, Comrade Zhao, if you want to work here, you should call Aunt Li, Deputy Director Li. She is the Deputy Director of this guest house. Okay, then let's call Aunt Li in private, Lin Ziahua said with a big grin. We came later, so we should respect you, or Director Xiao would say that we don't understand the rules. After arranging the mother and daughter to the dormitory, Li Wanwan pulled Lu Zhenqiang aside, and said in a low voice, what's the origin of these two? No background. Lu Zhenqiang glanced around, his voice lowered, it's a pawn in Director Xiao's hand, you can adjust it as you like. What do you mean? Li Wanwan looked confused, not quite understanding what Lu Zhenqiang meant. Leave the job of cleaning the toilet to Lin Ziahua, and the job of washing the sheets and sheets to Zhao Qian. They can't be lazy, understand? Understood. Li Wanwan really understood at this moment. Isn't she just messing around to death, although she doesn't know what kind of chess pieces these two are, but she likes such chess pieces here. At this time, the mother and daughter were still intoxicated in the dormitory. In a room of more than 10 square meters, there are 3 bunk beds, and the empty one is distributed to the mother and daughter. Although the conditions are not very good, they are satisfied with the mother and daughter. In their hometown, although the house they lived in was larger than this one, it was dark and dirty, and it really couldn't compare with this place. After putting the things away, Lin Ziahua told her daughter, Qian, Mother understands that Director Xiao is not something we can climb up to. Mother thinks there is something wrong with the way Lu Zhenqiang looks at you. He must have taken a fancy to you, and you, don't be too proactive, but don't make him feel too high. Mother. Zhao Qian was a little unhappy. He is too short, how embarrassing it is when he becomes a relative and brings him home. What's the shame, he's an urbanite. Mom, I want to find someone taller. Chu Xia's son-in-law is tall, what's the use? Lin Ziahua sighed, and said earnestly, Qian, Mother, to be honest, our conditions are here, so we can't be too arrogant. Let's talk about Chu Xia. She is obviously a country girl, but she wants to climb high branches. What happened? Did you fall off? We can't make this mistake again. Zhao Qian blinked her eyes. Mother, you said that Chu Xia's son-in-law will go to jail for the rest of his life. Is it because I will be in prison all my life? I dare not say. Anyway, Chu Xia's life is ruined. If you follow that man, you will have to suffer for the rest of your life. If you don't follow him, who do you think would want to marry a second marriage? Mother. Zhao Qian was still a little unwilling. Let me try it first, and if Director Xiao has nothing to do, then think about other things, okay. Besides, we don't necessarily have to look for Lu Zhenqiang. We have a job in the city and want to find a good man, so why worry? Qian. Lin Ziahua hesitated, then sighed softly. It's one thing for a man to like you and beg to marry you, but another thing for you to beg him to marry you if he likes you. Mother, can it hurt you? Zhao Qian said, Mom, I'm not tall, but I look good. If I work here, I'm sure I can find a better man. Knowing that she would not persuade her daughter for a while, Lin Xiahua stopped entangled in this topic. Mother will not force you, but you are not young anymore, so you can't always procrastinate. Mom, I know, I will find a good husband's family early, and return to my hometown with my mother's style. Well, Mother is waiting. Lin Xiahua narrowed her eyes with a smile. At that time, your grandpa's house and your grandma's house will all come to curry favor with us. When the time comes, we will only give the benefits to your grandma's house. Your grandfather's house. Zhao Qian nodded solemnly. Success. I will make my father regret it then. Have you cleaned up yet? Accompanied by the voice of inquiry, Li Wanwan pushed open the door of the dormitory, looked at the mother and daughter, and said expressionlessly, after cleaning up, go to work quickly, we don't support idlers here. The huge difference in attitude made the mother and daughter stand there in a daze, and then Lin Xiahua stood up. Director Li, Director Xiao arranged us here. Li Wanwan frowned when Lin Xiahua brought out Xiao Yuan to suppress others. Director Xiao arranged for you to come here for work, not for pleasure. Where is Comrade Lu Weiqiang? He has something to do and left. The mother and daughter were immediately dumbfounded. Their behavior was limited to the nest, and they really didn't dare to go to this unfamiliar place and have no one to rely on. Although they felt that Xiao Yuan was a backer, they were not stupid. This woman had a good attitude before, but now she suddenly changed her attitude. It must be what Lu Weiqiang said. The problem is, even if they want to complain to Xiao Yuan, they can't find it. They don't even know where Xiao Yuan works or lives. They don't even know anything except his name. At this moment, the two women realized that they were afraid. Before, they only thought that the one who could deal with the Zhou family was a strong man, but they were really thrown here. They suddenly felt that even if they sold them, they seemed to have to bear it. After being assigned the work, the mother and wife realized that they really thought everything was too good. When I was in my hometown, Zhao Yufeng cleaned the toilets at home. Why did Lin Xiahua ever do this kind of work? As soon as she took a shovel and pounded it down, she vomited faintly. Zhao Qian did wash clothes when she was in her hometown, but that was limited to her family of 3. Now looking at the piles of sheets, pillowcases, and the laundry instructions thrown to her by the team leader who assigned the work, she felt her liver tremble. However, although the life of the mother and daughter is not very good, compared to the worries of Mr. Zhao and Mrs. Zhao, it is still good. The first thing Xiao Yuan did after returning home was to go to the dentist because his front teeth were all gone. Jing Zhe is a doctor, and he is very clear about how to use force to knock out teeth. It is not good for him to provoke anyone, and if he provokes him, he deserves to become a toothless man. Dental implants are not something that can be solved in a day or two. Xiao Yuan originally thought about going home and hiding away from people, but after he really went home and stayed there, Zhou Mikang's face kept coming to mind. It was all Zhou Mikang's fault that he ended up like this. Then, he has no teeth, and Zhou Mikang cannot be allowed to have teeth. Thinking of this, he simply put on a mask and went to the place where Zhou Mikang was being held. Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang are the ones whose freedom is restricted in the Zhou family. However, they are detained in different places. As for Uncle Zhou and Aunt Zhou, they obeyed Mr. Zhou's advice and went to work with peace of mind and didn't care about anything. The Zhou family's ancestral house was confiscated, but the old house was not passive. Therefore, the Zhou family is still living in the old house. After Chuxia came back with Mr. Jing and Mr. Wan, she went back to the Zhou family first. Anyway, she is now the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family. In order to avoid Xiao Yuan's persecution, she hastily recognized the two old men as godfathers. but it doesn't mean that she can really hide from this house and don't care about anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 243. Chu Xia. Seeing the youngest daughter-in-law enter the door, Lin Yangqiu hugged her to her side, and the tears couldn't stop falling. Madame Zhou frowned and couldn't help shouting, "What are you doing? Boss, he and Xiaomi are only under investigation temporarily. If something really happens, can our family still live here?" "Mom, I'm worried that Xiaoyuan will be cruel to Xiaomi," Lin Yangqiu said, sniffling. "Chu Xia, the only one who can save Xiaomi now is you. Please beg Mr. Wan, as long as he is willing to help, you dad and Xiaomi will be fine, and the Zhou family will be fine." Mr. Zhou interrupted Lin Yangqiu. "Boss, daughter-in-law, why are you so confused? Mr. Wan can recognize that Chu Xia's granddaughter is already a great help, so how can he make such a condition? Besides, this is not something he can help if he wants to help things. If you let Chu Xia talk about it, wouldn't it be embarrassing for him? Dad, we know Xiaoyuan's temperament too well. I'm really worried that when Xiaomi comes out, she won't be like a human being." After a pause, Lin Yangqiu discussed, "Can I ask Mr. Wan to explain the matter? Before the result, no one is allowed to torture to extract a confession." "Mom, I'm going to ask Grandpa Wan, and I'll go now." Hearing what Lin Yangqiu said, Chu Xia also panicked. She really didn't expect this before. "Chu Xia, wait." Mrs. Zhou stopped her, looked into her eyes with admiration. "Grandma misunderstood you before, now, Grandma apologizes to you." Chu Xia hurriedly waved her hands. "Grandma, we are a family, there is no need for this. It's right to be rewarded. If Grandma has done something wrong, she should apologize." Mrs. Zhou chuckled and continued, "Don't embarrass Wan Lao, Xiaomi will be fine, our Zhou family. If you are not so weak, you will be bullied and have no power to fight back." "Mom." "Yangqiu, Mom knows you love your son, but why are you so restless?" Mrs. Zhou looked at her helplessly. "Your own son, don't you know? He is such a character who can be dealt with so easily." Lin Yangqiu said, "Then he was arrested?" "That's because this matter must be settled." Mrs. Zhou couldn't help sighing again. Your vision is a little too shallow. Anyway, listen to your mother. Don't let Chu Xia beg Wan old. Chu Xia, when you come back, just stay there and listen to Grandma. If there is something wrong with Xiaomi, Grandma will pay you with her old life." "What do I want your life for?" Chu Xia muttered to herself, and looked at Mr. Zhou with some hesitation. Zhou Mikang was always helping her, this time. She really wanted to help Zhou Mikang to the best of her ability. Although Mr. Wan is not her relative, but now that she can ask for a share, she might as well ask him first, and then she will be filial to him. Serve him as a grandfather to repay this kindness. From the way old man Wan looked at her, she could clearly feel the old man's desire for family affection at this age. Although she is not his real granddaughter. However, the old man should be willing to settle for the next best thing, right? It's not that she doesn't believe Mrs. Zhou's words, but she still wants to hear Mrs. Zhou's confirmation again. Thinking of the half of Jingzhe's teeth smashed by Xiaoyuan, she hurriedly said, "Grandpa, Grandma, Mom, there is something I haven't had time to say." Xiaoyuan said something that insulted the Zhou family and me. Jingzhe couldn't listen, so we got into a fight with him, and after that, Xiaoyuan's face was swollen and half of his teeth fell out. Originally, she was very happy when she thought of Xiaoyuan's miserable situation, but now, thinking that Xiaoyuan might deal with Zhou Mikang in the same way, she couldn't be happier at all. Xiaozhe is a man of loyalty, Lin Yangqiu sighed, and looked at Mrs. Joe and Mrs. Joe, who also frowned. "Father, mother, I know you are waiting for his decision, but I don't want our family to come back again. Rao Rao's tragedy has been staged, and I owe Wan Lao's love. From now on, let's turn around and pay back with all our lives, okay?" Mr. Joe nodded. "Okay, Chu Xia, you can tell Mr. Wan, and he will know what to do." And Chu Xia responded, and walked out. When she reached the door, as soon as she opened the door, she saw a black figure rushing towards her, scaring her to take a step back. "Grandpa, Grandma, quickly find a way to save the third child." It was Zhou Jiping who came in. She, who was always calm, yelled hastily before she entered the door. "What's wrong with Zhou Mikang?" Chu Xia anxiously grabbed her arm. Zhou Jiping looked at Chu Xia with a complicated expression on her face. She liked this younger brother and sister very much, and knew that she could not be blamed for what happened this time. However, as long as she thinks that the cause of all this is her, and now her brother may suffer great harm because of her, she will not like her anymore. Otherwise, she will not see her as soon as she enters the door. I don't even bother to talk to each other." Seeing Zhou Jiping's emotions, the old lady Zhou reminded displeasedly, "Hurry up and tell your siblings what's wrong with Xiaomi." "There's nothing wrong with it for now. Xiao Yuan is looking for him. Grandpa, Grandma, you should quickly think of a way." When Chu Xia heard it, she didn't care to say anything, and ran outside. Zhou Jiping was stunned by Chu Xia for a while, before asking, "What does she mean? Where did she go?" Lin Yangqiu suppressed the panic in her heart and explained, "You and Xiangping don't even know that the third daughter-in-law is now the granddaughter of your Grandpa Jing and Grandpa Wan. She should ask Grandpa Wan for help." "Grandpa Wan?" Zhou Jiping looked at Lin Yangqiu in confusion. "Which Grandpa Wan?" "It's the Grandpa Wan who moved to our yard later. It's just." Zhou Jiping's eyes widened, and he pointed upwards. "That's that, friend." "Yes," Lin Yangqiu nodded. How could he recognize Lin Chuxia as his granddaughter? "He has never been involved with any family," Zhou Jiping said with a puzzled expression. "It's a coincidence that the village he sent down before is the village where Chu Xia's family is located, and he has a very good relationship with Chu Xia." Su said that because of this moment, Lin Yangqiu's expression has relaxed, and even with a smile, "Speaking of which, your siblings are also blessed children." "Jiping." Mrs. Joe waved at Zhou Jiping, and said seriously after she came to her, "You are so old, how can you be so confused? This time, whether there is a third daughter-in-law or not, the Xiao family will not let the Zhou family go. The difference is only 1 day sooner or later. Do you think there is a difference between 1 day earlier and 1 day later? Moreover, you also saw why Xiao Yuan was cleaned up by Xiaomi that day, so can you blame Chu Xia? You have always been a child who understands, so Grandma won't say much, you can figure it out yourself." "Grandma, I know." Zhou Jiping was ashamed. "I also know that I am wrong, but when I think that Xiaomi might be ruthless by that bastard Xiao Yuan, I can't help but want to blame Chu Xia. I feel, if it weren't for her, even if the Xiao family was dealing with the Zhou family, they wouldn't be so cruel to Xiaomi alone." "Who is the most promising among the younger generation of the Zhou family?" Mr. Zhou asked. Zhou Jiping replied without thinking, "Of course it's Xiaomi." Mr. Zhou snorted coldly, "You don't quite understand." After being stunned for a while, Zhou Jiping finally understood the meaning of Mr. Zhou. For Zhou Mikang, the most promising Zhou family, how could the Xiao family let him go, no matter whether it was because of Chu Xia or not? In this way, if her younger brother escaped this catastrophe because of Wan Lao, not only should she not blame Chu Xia, but she should also be grateful to her. After thinking it through, Zhou Jiping's face became more ashamed, and then he asked in doubt, "Why didn't Xiangping come here?" In the past, Zhou Xiangping would definitely be staying at her mother's house at this time. Probably something happened at home at this time. Lin Yangkai also realized that Zhou Xiangping hadn't come here yet. The old lady Zhou shook her head helplessly. You guys are confused after coming up for a while, it must be the old man Liao who stopped her from coming over. Yeah, Zhou Jiping nodded. With Grandpa Liao's temperament, he would definitely do this, but Grandpa Liao himself must be helping us find a way. Hey, Mrs. Zhou sighed, your Grandpa Liao was bitten by a snake once, and he was afraid of well ropes for 10 years. Forget it, he won't come here if he doesn't let Xiangping come over. It's a mess at this time, so come here, follow along. Zhou Jiping curled her lips. She's locked up at home, so it's probably more disturbing. At this moment, Chu Xia had already run back to Wan's house, opened the door, and saw that Mr. Wan was not in the hall, so he hurriedly ran to Mr. Wan's study. Chu Xia, what's wrong? Seeing this, Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan asked anxiously after her. How could Chu Xia have the time to talk to his parents now? He pushed open the door of Mr. Wan's study room, and said out of breath, Grandpa, please, please, help Zhou Mikang, or, his tooth it's gone. Tooth gone, Elder Wan looked at her amusedly. Chu Xia, why don't you stay at your in-laws' house? Well, why come here to talk crazy? Grandpa, I didn't say crazy things. Chu Xia was about to cry. Didn't Jing Zhen knock out Xiao Yuan's teeth? Xiao Yuan went to find Zhou Mikang, and he will definitely knock out Zhou Mikang's teeth too. If you don't help, his teeth will be gone. Grandpa, I will respect you as my own grandfather in the future. This time, you must help me, please. Isn't it because I have no teeth, so I didn't go there? Mr. Wan said. His eyes fell on the book in his hand again, and he waved his hand at Chu Xia. Close the door for me. Grandpa. Chu Xia stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve, pulling it out without thinking. Don't read the book, it's important to save people first. Grandpa, Grandpa, Grandpa. Stop, stop, stop. Mr. Wan was so irritated by her noise, he hurriedly said, I promise, his teeth won't fall out, okay. Asterisk D carat. Carat B asterisk. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 244. Zhou Mikang was locked alone in a room of about 20 square meters. A table and 3 chairs were all the furnishings in the room. Here, there are no human rights. Drinking water and eating are all fixed and rationed. It's okay to say, how can this water be regulated and rationed? Fortunately, after special training, the temporary lack of water will not be too embarrassing. Zhou Mikang sat there quietly, closing his eyes and resting his mind. After entering, he was bombed repeatedly for 16 hours. He couldn't bear it yet, and the people on shift couldn't bear it first. He probably had a date with Zhou at the moment. There was no bed here, so he could only rest in this way to recharge his batteries. Standing outside the door were 2 men in their 20s, one fat and the other thin. I don't know when it's our turn to move. My hands itch when I see him. The thin man's eyes couldn't hide the eagerness to try. The fat man pulled the thin man who was eager to try and sat down. Stay well and don't cause trouble. It's just him. The thin man murmured into the room with a look of disdain on his face. It's come to this point, what else is there to cause trouble? I think it's our great achievement that he is dead. Ah, the fat man sighed, and ignored him. The thin man stabbed the fat man. What, you still complain about him? I'm not complaining about him, I'm looking forward to it. This matter will be settled soon. Junior, you have seen a lot of things in the past few years, you should understand what I mean. The thin man fell silent all of a sudden. Indeed, since he was arranged here, he has been immersed in the joy of being trusted, and he really hasn't thought about this issue carefully. In case Zhou's family turns the situation around, they will be considered soldiers. It will also suffer with the Xiao family. However, they have already stood in line. It seems that I have no regrets. There are old and young people, You should think more about your family, the fat man said again. How about? Give him some water, the thin man wanted to make amends for his behavior. Or don't, if we bump into each other, we can't tell the truth, we just do things according to our duties, no matter what happens, there is still a way out. You're still out of your mind. The whispers of the two outside fell into Joe Mekang's ears, and a mocking smile appeared on his expressionless face. These fools don't want to either. Why did the Joe family admit it without taking any action? Do they really think they have no power to fight back? After that, a trace of sadness welled up in my heart. To put it bluntly, the Joe family is just a pawn. He clenched his hands tightly. The voices outside stopped abruptly. After a while, footsteps came. You can leave now, we will take over here. A slightly honest baritone came in. Joe Mekang's expression was slightly stagnant. Could it be the winner? It doesn't matter whether it's the interrogators who were sent before, or the people who stayed at the door. They can only be regarded as fringe members of the Xiao family. This arrangement shows that the family the Xiao family is attached to has not yet won an absolute victory. Otherwise, the Xiao family would not punish him to death. No matter how good Ren his skills are, the Xiao family wants his life at this time. It's not difficult, he was completely disabled. Not to mention that, with Xiao Yuan's heart as big as a sesame seed, he finally got the chance. Who is willing not to use it to the extreme? If things do go wrong. In an instant, a trace of pain flashed across his eyes. If he had known earlier, he shouldn't have married her. Regardless of whether they were a real couple or not, in the eyes of outsiders, they were real couples. The point is, Mr. Wan and Mr. Jing can protect her for a while, but they can't protect her forever. Xiao Yuan's character of vengeance, even if he waits for 10 years, he will not forget the humiliation of that day. It would be fine if she married a man who could protect her, otherwise. Joe Mekang didn't dare to think about it, he was full of annoyance in his heart. At the same time, he had an indescribable feeling for the old man who was on the same front as his family. Step. The Joe family has been in the army for several generations, and they are not good at playing tricks. In the past, Joe Mekang felt that this was the pride of the Joe family. Now, he really thinks that this is the weakness of the Joe family. While thinking wildly, the quarrel outside the door calmed down. The door was gently pushed open. Joe Mekang concealed all his emotions and looked over indifferently. A strong man in his 30s came in, with a crew cut and soared eyebrows. Tiger eyes, straight nose. Seeing Joe Mekang looking at him, he smiled gently. Hello, my name is Wan Quan. Joe Mekang nodded at him without saying a word. After the man came in, he looked around, frowned slightly, turned and went out, and when he came back, he held a thermos pot in his hand, poured a glass of water for Joe Mekang, and sighed softly, Colonel Joe, you have been wronged. Thank you. Joe Mekang thanked him, picked up the tea mug, took a sip, and then put the tea mug back. Colonel Joe, drink more. After a pause, Wan Quan said, we are party elders. Joe Mekang's expression brightened. From the bottom of his heart, he admired Mr. Dang, even more than Mr. Huang, who was tied to the same chariot as his family. It's just that it's a big taboo to change hands, even if he admires him in his heart, he can't show it. Wan Lao begged him, Wan Quan said again. Grateful eyes welled up in Joe Mekang's eyes. I remember. Your father's side has also been replaced by our people, don't worry. This time, Joe Mekang's expression was really relaxed, and at the same time, he also understood that after this battle, some things will change, but he is looking forward to this change. Open the door, let me in. Xiao Yuan's voice came from outside the door. Sorry, you can't go in. Why can't I go in? Do you know who I am? I know, you are Director Xiao. Then let me in quickly, I'm blinding your dog's eyes. No. Wang Quan frowned and stood up. I'll go out and have a look. If he must come in, you can let him in. Zhou Mikang moved his wrist while talking. I'm fine. The corner of Wang Quan's mouth twitched. He turned and walked out. Outside the door, Xiao Yuan was quarreling with another colleague of Wang Quan's. Fang Shenqiu, what are you doing? What the hell, you dare to even me? I think you really don't want to do it. Shenqiu, let him go. Fang Shenqiu let go of his hand all of a sudden, and Xiao Yuan staggered back several steps before he stood still without any precautions. What's your name? Say it quickly. Xiao Yuan's face turned blue with anger. If it wasn't for his current image, which is inconvenient to see people, he would definitely bring a few people over. If you don't think about it, one less person will see more to save face. I never thought that I would meet such a master who is not stingy with meat and vegetables. Fang Shenqiu. Xiao Yuan pointed at him viciously. Okay, I remember you, Fang Shenqiu. If I don't let you go home to plant sorghum, I won't be Xiao Yuan. Our hometown doesn't grow sorghum, Fang Shenqiu said angrily. You still want to go back to your hometown? Xiao Yuan squinted at him. Go ahead and dream about your big head. I'm sorry if I don't send you to a place where rabbits don't shit. Comrade, if you continue to make trouble for no reason, don't blame us for being rude. Wang Quan stared at Xiao Yuan seriously. What do you want to come here dressed up like this? I dress up like this? When Wang Quan said this, Xiao Yuan felt that he was going to be blown up. Would he be willing to dress up like this? You're all out of order. Hurry up and open the door for me. I want Zhou Mikang to become like me, bastard. If I don't let him become like this, I'll write it upside down. Are you sure you want to go in? Wang Quan asked seriously. What nonsense, Xiao Yuan looked at him bitterly. What's your name? Wang Quan. Okay, you two, let's grow sorghum together, Xiao Yuan said as he pushed open the door, and then slammed it shut, shutting Fang Shenqiu and Wang Quan outside. Are you alright? Fang Shenqiu pointed inside with some concern. Wang Quan shook his head. Don't worry. He hasn't eaten or slept much in the past 2 days. Is it really possible? When did you become such a mother-in-law? Wang Quan's mouth curled up. Someone insists on being sent to the door to be beaten. It's wrong for us to stop. That's right, Fang Shenqiu nodded with a smile, and sat back behind the table in peace. As soon as Xiao Yuan entered the door, he pulled out a chain whip from the back of his waist, glanced at Zhou Mikang who was sitting there quietly watching him, and rushed up without saying a word. The corners of Zhou Mikang's mouth twitched indiscernibly, and he would be sorry if he didn't do it in such a hurry to send him to the door for a beating. However, this Xiao Yuan was so considerate, knowing that it would hurt him to beat him with his hands, he even took the initiative to bring tools. What a good comrade. Ah, ouch, stop hitting, ah. Hearing the howling of ghosts and wolves coming from the room, Fang Shenqiu gasped, that guy, how tough, he can still beat Xiao Yuan like this after going through so much trouble, it sounds like it hurts so much. Seeing Xiao Yuan limp on the ground, without the strength to move, Zhou Mikang finally put down his whip, squatted in front of him panting, and then suddenly discovered that Xiao Yuan's teeth were gone. Feeling puzzled, he rubbed the back of his head, and then glanced at the whip on the ground. Zhou Mikang himself was confused. Could it be that his whip technique is so powerful? Suddenly thinking of Xiao Yuan's swollen face when he came in, he kicked him with his toes. Who knocked out your teeth? Yings. Yings, Zhou Mikang thought about it hard, and felt that he probably didn't know such a person. It seemed that Xiao Yuan had quite a few enemies. At this time, Xiao Yuan emphasized again, it's Jingja. Jingja. Seeing Xiao Yuan's toothless mouth, Zhou Mikang suddenly realized that he has no teeth in his mouth, and his words are not leaking. You mean Jingja? Yes, Xiao Yuan stared at Zhou Mikang bitterly. Yi Jing, everything I accept, I will accept. You wait, everything I accept, you will accept. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 245. The second watch arrives. Okay, I'll wait. Zhou Mikang smiled rarely. Xiaoyuan, you didn't seem to be leaking your words back then, why did it leak like this? Xiaoyuan glared at Zhou Mikang resentfully, got up and walked out. It was obvious who had the upper hand, and he was not stupid, so why would he stay here and continue to feel uncomfortable? God knows how regretful he is. If he knew it would be like this, even if it was embarrassing, he would have to bring a few people over to help. When you bring people here, remember to bring a few who are skilled, so that you won't be able to recognize who is who when you go out, Zhou Mikang said slowly, looking at Xiaoyuan's back. Xiaoyuan stopped, turned around, and stared fiercely at Zhou Mikang. Xiang Xian, I'm up to your wishes, don't worry, I will do what you want. The door opened, and Wang Quan and Fang Shenkuo looked at him together. What is the money, what are you looking at? Xiaoyuan gritted his teeth, glaring at the two of them. He limped on. Tooth. Fang Guo's hung spat inside, and Wang Quan quickly got up and opened the door to go in. Seeing that Zhou Mikang was still sitting there, he bent over and searched carefully in the room. Zhou Mikang glanced at him, without making a sound. His eyes were also wandering around. After turning around 3 times in a row, Wang Quan finally found what he was looking for in the corner, but, he held up the things in his hand with an expression of disbelief. You are so young, they are all dentures. Zhou Mikang glanced at it, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help twitching. He had seen this kind of removable dentures abroad. Domestically, there seems to be no such thing. Unexpectedly, Xiaoyuan still has the hobby of collecting such things. Could it be that he has long expected that one day he will be beaten to death? Jingzhe was quite ruthless. Thinking that Jingzhe, who has always been warm, could do such a thing, Zhou Mikang's mood is very complicated. Now he is in a very chaotic state, obviously regretting marrying Chu Xia early, and obviously worried that she has no one to protect her. However, when I saw someone caring so much for Chu Xia, I felt uncomfortable. Xiaoyuan left Zhou Mikang's place, and went home first considering the communication problem. The 2 nannies of the Xiao family, Mama Wang and Mama Li, were making dumplings in the living room, while Zhou Yiping, Mama Xiao Lu Yui, and Aunt Lu Lingmei on Wednesday were sitting chatting. Everyone was taken aback when they saw Xiaoyuan, who suddenly opened the door. This comrade. Xiao Wen. How did you get hurt? Wang Ma was about to step forward and ask Xiaoyuan why he came in without knocking. Lu Yui had already recognized her son, howled and rushed to her son's side, asking him what was wrong. Zhou Yiping also ran over and saw her husband's miserable state. Immediately collapsed to the ground crying. Lu Lingmei stepped forward and dragged her daughter up, and then began to cry. She has been living with her daughter and son-in-law after the divorce, even if it is pretending. Also pretend to be sadder than Xiaoyuan's own mother. When Xiaoyuan came back last time, everyone was taking a nap. Otherwise, this scene should have happened when I came back last time. He frowned in disgust, returned to his bedroom without saying a word. Several women rushed to the bedroom with a huff. Xiao's mother, Xiaoan, tell your mother, how did you get hurt? Did you fight with someone? You said you are such a big child, why are you still fighting? Zhou Yiping, Yuan, talk, who is so courageous, talk quickly. Lu Lingmei, Xiao Wen, it hurts on your body, it hurts on my mother's heart, no matter who did it, my mother will go and get it back for you. The corners of the mouths of the 2 nannies following behind were twitching. This mother-in-law is really thick-skinned to a certain extent. After the divorce, she lived here relentlessly and never left, and she always showed more love than Mrs. Xiao. Young master, she is a natural, Mrs. Xiao is a simple and honest person. Not only did she not think that what she did was wrong, but she also listened to her in everything. But when you think about it, it hasn't been long since Mrs. Xiao was taken over. She used to take care of her in-laws in her hometown. How could such a virtuous woman think so badly of others? Installing a pair of dentures for himself that would not leak out, Xiao Yuan secretly thanked Mr. Meiji. The last time Meiji gave him these, he accepted them out of face, unexpectedly. This time it has been a great help. Zhou Mikang. Jingzhe. Opening the door bitterly, Xiao Yuan frowned impatiently as he looked at the three women standing at the door shouting, "Get out of the way." Xiaoyan. Lu Yui took his hand. "How did you do this? Let's go to the hospital first, okay?" "That's right, let's go to the hospital first," Lu Lingmei also hurriedly said. "I'll go to the hospital after I finish cleaning up." Zhou Mikang, Xiao Yuan said and looked at Zhou Yiping. "This is all a good thing that your dear third brother did." After speaking, he pushed her away and limped out. "Didn't he be arrested?" Zhou Yiping wondered. "How could you still be beaten like this?" "Do you think I'm lying?" Xiao Yuan turned around and stared at her with a grim expression. "Do I need it?" "No, no," Zhou Yiping waved her hands anxiously, but she was very puzzled in her heart. Of course she knew that something happened to Zhou's family. To be honest, she didn't feel much about it. Anyway, they never valued him. Her mother and her father divorced, so she didn't have much affection for Zhou's family. And now it has disappeared even more, and there is even a faint sense of pleasure. Don't they not want to see the Xiao family? Now let's see if they dare not wait to see the Xiao family. It wasn't until Xiao Yuan's figure disappeared that Zhou Yiping came back to her senses. She looked at Lu Lingmei suspiciously. Usually, when she was negligent, her mother would make it up for her. Xiaoyan won't lie, he has his way, and our mothers can't just sit still. At this moment, the Zhou family dares to punish this kind of demon moth. I think they really think they have lived too much. Feel at ease. Lu Lingmei glanced at Lu Yui, who was still in a daze, and a trace of contempt flashed in her eyes. Why did this woman, a stupid pig, marry Director Xiao? Sister Yui, Yiping, and I are going to Zhou's house. Do you want to go together? Lu Yui came back to her senses and grabbed her. What are you doing at Zhou's house? They hurt Xiaoyan like that. Of course they are going to settle accounts. Settling accounts. After hesitating, Lu Yui nodded. Whoever called, let's ask the third child of the Zhou family. Brother Xiao will look for him. We need to vent our anger for Yuan in other ways, Lu Lingmei said while dragging her out. I want the Zhou family to give us an explanation. When Xiao Binqi saw his son, there was a rare trace of doubt on his usually calm face. With his current status, who would dare to treat his son like this? Who did it? He asked directly. First Jingzhe, then Zhou Mikang. Zhou Mikang, Xiao Binqi automatically ignored Jingzhe. Isn't he under quarantine inspection? How could he beat you like this? Jingzhe's grandson. Xiao Yuan reported his unlucky events of the day in detail, and Xiao Bing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. However, he can't do too much now. The ending is not yet clear, and a person surnamed Long is inserted in the middle, and Mr. Wang has no choice but to be scruples. Now, he just waits to persuade the person surnamed Ye. Thinking of this, a flash of inspiration came to his mind. Although the Ye family here and that Ye are not in the same family, they can be regarded as side branches. If this Ye is let go, and this Ye is used to show affection to that Ye, will it be? Even if there is a glimmer of hope, he still has to try. Now that the surname Mei is always suppressing him, this feeling is too bad. Being alone is what he wants to pursue. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he scolded his son with a cold face. It's nothing. Why are you so embarrassed to come to me after being beaten up like this? If you can't solve it yourself, you still have the face to complain. Dad. Xiao Yuan froze there. Xiao Bing glared at him. Dad, what is it? Go to the hospital quickly, don't embarrass yourself here. Yes, Xiao Yuan was afraid of this father from the bottom of his heart, so he could only walk out with his head drooping. Let Xiao Miao go with you. Thank you, Dad. Xiao Yuan immediately became happy. Xiao Miao is a clerk under Xiao Binky. She is petite and cute. Xiao Binky has never let him get her ideas. Unexpectedly, she finally loosened up at this moment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 246. Although he got the guarantee from Mr. Wan, Chu Xia couldn't really feel at ease in his heart. He wanted to visit Zhou Mikang, but no one was allowed to visit him during the isolation review period. He felt embarrassed to bother Mr. Wan anymore, so he tried his best to suppress his anxiety and sit down. Practicing advanced costumes in front of the piano doesn't mean you have to pretend to be decent, right? It was strange to say that after fiddled with the piano for a while, she actually fell silent, and couldn't help but smile bitterly to herself. Sure enough, what was lost was the best. When I faced it every day before, how did the piano have this effect? Thinking that Mr. Zhou and others were still in a hurry, she quickly got up, informed Mr. Wan and Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, and ran out. After the door was closed, Mr. Wan shook his head helplessly. He had already seen Chu Xia's intentions, but when it came to his position, he couldn't interfere too much, lest people misunderstand that he was helping an old friend win over. In fact, as far as what he is doing now, people have misunderstood it. He doesn't mind it, mainly because he doesn't want Mr. Zhou to misunderstand that he is putting pressure on the Zhou family. Under the premise of ensuring Zhou Mikang's safety, it is correct to let the Zhou family think carefully. Of course, ensuring Zhou Mikang's safety is indeed for Chu Xia's face. This little girl seemed to have forgotten some of the past after her serious illness, but he would never forget it. He will always remember the scene of being thrown at the door after being criticized that winter. If the little girl hadn't brought him a bowl of hot water and dragged him into the house, or, the current him is a piece of Lois. That is, after that time, he began to take the initiative to invite the little girl to play at home, at the beginning. She was always timidly unwilling to approach him, and later, under the temptation of eating, he finally got close to him. Found out after getting along for a long time. She is actually a spoiled little guy. He deliberately asked her why she took the initiative to save him. Her answer was that she was afraid of death and walked by his door every day, so she couldn't let him die. Some ridiculous answers. However, it was fate that she could save him. He must be grateful. Later, after a serious illness, he invited her in again, and her eyes were no longer timid, but strange. He tapped around and found that she seemed to have forgotten something. But so what? She is still his benefactor, which he cannot veto. It cannot be forgotten either. So, he re-established a relationship with her, only to find that she was much more sensible than before. His hobbies are also very different from before, and he is very interested in the books in his room. It's a shift he likes. And, by then the situation had turned for the better. No one is staring at him anymore, so. During that time, he lived very leisurely in Dalian village. When he played the piano or played games by himself, she sat there quietly with a book in his hand. Later, when he was rehabilitated, left, and his daughter had trouble with him, he would often think of those days, and even hope that his daughter would undergo a big change like Nirvana, just like Xiao Chuxia. Unfortunately, to this day, his expectations have not been realized, and his daughter is not even willing to recognize him as a father at all. It's not that he didn't want to visit Xiao Chuxia in the past, but his identity is too sensitive and the current situation is not clear, so he doesn't want to bring twists and turns to the little girl's peaceful life. Some time ago, when the college entrance examination was resumed, he still wanted to take a look at the current situation after the new year, so he took the little girl over to tutor her and take the college entrance examination next year. Unexpectedly, just like that, we met again. The little girl is actually married, and she is still from the Joe family. What kind of fate is this? To be honest, if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it when told to him. What kind of family is the Joe family, so far away, a little girl from the countryside married into the Joe family? It was also for this reason that after hearing Xiao Chuxia's name and seeing that she was really the Xiao Chuxia he knew, he made the decision to recognize her as his granddaughter without hesitation. With his temperament, this is unprecedented panic. Others only thought he was doing it for the Joe family, but in fact, he was doing it to repay the favor. When I called my old friend the day before yesterday, the other party was still surprised, saying that this was not like what he did, and he couldn't lie to his old friend, let alone let his old friend misunderstand, so he told him the truth. Since then, his old friend has helped him maintain the Joe family. Otherwise, if Zhou Mikang and Zhou Jingping were arrested this time, how could the caregivers be replaced with neutral ones so quickly? No matter how capable the old friend is, he is beyond his reach. This may be the so-called one drink and one peck. Back then, the little girl saved him, so he was able to have today's karma. Otherwise, everyone else would have passed through the catastrophe of the Zhou family this time. Only the little girl would be the most dangerous, even if Jing the family is protecting her, and I dare not say that she can keep her safe. After all, old man Jing and Xiao Bing were nothing more than equals. If Xiao Yuan is determined to play tricks, who dares to say that things are safe? But with him around, Xiao Binqi absolutely did not dare to let his son do anything wrong. The person Xiao Binqi relied on was his old friend who was desperately trying to win him over. He knew the relationship between him and his old friend, and dealing with him was equivalent to as for dealing with that one, do they dare? He couldn't tell the little girl about all this, or maybe the little girl blamed him for not helping to the end, but he really couldn't go any further. Forget it, one day, the little girl will understand. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan were in a mess all the time. In order to calm their minds, the couple simply started professional cleaning each room carefully. At this moment, everything was cleaned, and the two began to think about doing it again. Noticing their actions, Mr. Wan reluctantly greeted them, "Baohe, Yulan, come and sit with me for a while." After the couple came and sat down, they felt like they were sitting on a red-hot iron under their buttocks, and they couldn't feel at ease anymore. "Don't worry, Xiao Zhou will be fine," Master Wan comforted. "Well, I know, Uncle Wan, I'm not worried. Uncle Wan, with you here, I have nothing to worry about." He said so in his mouth, but he could tell from the expressions and sitting postures of the couple that they were clearly talking nonsense with their eyes open. That's right, if such a big incident happened to the son-in-law's family, if he really looks like a normal person, is he still human? Mr. Wan simply stopped persuading them, saying that he wanted to eat dumplings and let them go to work. At this moment, Chu Xia has arrived at Zhou's house, and only Mrs. Zhou, Lin Yangkaiu and Zhou Jiping are at home. "Where's Grandpa?" After Chu Xia greeted him, he couldn't help asking. "I just went out to relax." Mrs. Zhou pulled her to sit down. "It's hard for you," I ran back and forth. Yes, although Lin Yangkaiu agreed, she still had a worried expression on her face, and it seemed that she was absent-minded. Zhou Jiping didn't have the nerve to say anything because of face. Chu Xia understands everyone's feelings, so he is not polite, and directly talks about the business. "Grandma, Mom, second sister, Grandpa Wan should have already said hello, Dad and Zhou Mikang are not free, personal injury should be prevented." This time, it's thanks to Wan Lao. The old lady Zhou sighed, and looked at Lin Yangkaiu. "Yangkaiu, this matter is over, we must thank you very much." "Mom, I know," Lin Yangkaiu nodded her head again and again. The worry on her face was much less than before, and it was impossible for her not to worry at all. At this moment, the doorbell rang one after another. Mama Lu glanced through the cat's eyes, hesitated for a moment, then turned her head. It's the third wife and Miss Iping, and there is another one, I don't know. Let them in. Mrs. Joe frowned. She still has face, I want to see what she wants to say. After a while, Lu Lingmei took the lead, followed by Joe Iping and Lu Yui, and entered the door. Mom, are you okay? Mrs. Joe stared at Lu Lingmei, who had a smirk on her face, and didn't answer. The smile on Lu Lingmei's face couldn't hold back. Mom, I'm asking you, why are you ignoring me? This time, Mrs. Joe not only ignored her, but also turned her face away and told Joe Jipping, it's winter, and there are still bedbugs at home, go get the medicine and spray it, the smell is too bad. Yes, Grandma Joe Jipping responded, and entered the storage room with a thud. You. Lu Lingmei pointed at Mrs. Joe, too angry to speak. Grandma, my mother greeted you kindly, what's your attitude? Joe Iping took a step forward and accused. What are you doing at my house? Mrs. Joe looked at the people blankly, to see the excitement of Joe's house. Well, I saw it, let's go. Lin Yang Kaiu, let me tell you, your son will not end well. After Lu Lingmei finished speaking, she turned around and walked outside. Joe Iping was taken aback. What's the matter? Didn't you say you want to settle accounts? How did this go away? Glancing at the anxious-looking mother-in-law beside her, she didn't dare to stay here anymore, and hurried out following Lu Lingmei's footsteps. Lu Yui also wanted to leave, but when she thought about her son being beaten like that, she was really unwilling to leave like this, so she looked at Mrs. Joe and said, I am Lu Binkie's wife. Your grandson almost beat my son to death. In the future, you must teach him well, not to bully people like this. My son hit your son. Lin Yang Kai looked at Lu Yui in surprise. You are not mistaken, how could my son hit your son? I'm not lying. Lu Yui wiped the corners of her eyes. My Yuan's teeth have all been knocked out, how could he be so ruthless? What kind of hatred is there to be so ruthless? Speaking of which, they are also relatives, doing so is too frustrating. The corners of Chu Xia's mouth twitched. Where did this come from? Her husband and his son framed the Zhou family. She was not chilling, but Zhou Mikang beat her son? However, that tooth was not beaten by Zhou Mikang, it was a scapegoat. For a while, Chu Xia was entangled, and Jing Zhe also kindly helped her. She couldn't sell him, but Zhou Mikang is now the meat on the chopping board, being wronged. Well, what if someone chops it up with a knife? First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 247. First update, this is to make up for yesterday. Chu Xia was still entangled in the dilemma of whether to say or not to say. Lin Yang Kai had already smiled and said, Sister-in-law Xiao, look at what you said. Our Lao Zhou and our Xiaomi were imprisoned by your Lao Xiao for no reason. I didn't say chilling. What's so chilling about your son losing a few teeth? However, my son can knock out your son's teeth if he is locked up. I am finally relieved. Thank you, Mrs. Xiao's family, for delivering the letter. Let's drink a glass of water before leaving. Mama Lu, help Mrs. Xiao's family get a glass of water. Yes, Ma'am. Lu Ma answered and entered the kitchen. Lu Yui stood there with her mouth half open, as if she didn't know how to deal with it. Chu Xia was particularly puzzled. This woman is Xiao Binkie's wife, and Xiao Binkie is Zhou Iping's father-in-law, so this woman is Zhou Iping's mother-in-law, but it seems that this woman and Zhou's family don't know each other. This is not right. Under normal circumstances, when a son gets married, how can his mother not participate? However, judging by Zhou Iping's attitude towards this woman just now, it seems that she didn't have much respect. Could it be that this woman is Xiao Yuan's stepmother? Well, it is possible. However, the stepmother still protects Xiao Yuan like this. A certain Xia thought about it for a while, and found it understandable. In order to satisfy her husband, it is also necessary to protect Xiao Yuan. However, looking at this woman's looks, she is really ugly, and her temperament is really bad. With Xiao Binki's identity, marrying such a wife is probably for easy control. Silently, Lu Yui was turned into Xiao Binki's stepwife by Chu Xia. Seeing Chu Xia sitting next to her, her big eyes flicked on Lu Yui's body. Like a curious little squirrel, Mrs. Zhou's heart softened inexplicably. He gently held her in his arms. "Don't worry now." Chu Xia nodded with crooked eyebrows. Of course she can rest assured that it doesn't matter whether Zhou Mikang knocked out the tooth or not. The fact that Xiao Yuan's mother came to file a complaint meant that Xiao Yuan didn't take advantage of it. Zhou Jiping finally found the insecticide, looked around but did not see Lu Lingmei, and was a little disappointed. "The third aunt is gone." "She is no longer your third aunt," said Mrs. Zhou. "I know, I'm just used to calling her that." Zhou Yiping looked at Lu Yui while talking, and the other party flinched. What do you want to do?" "What do you want to do?" Zhou Jiping looked at her. "They're all gone. What are you still doing here? Are you really going to let me spray you?" he said while shaking the insecticide in his hand. "No. It's unreasonable." Lu Yui turned around as she said, and ran out quickly. "It's too bare." Zhou Jiping held up the bottle with a look of surprise on his face. "That's it, scared away?" It's no wonder that when Zhou Yiping got married, Lu Binki didn't let her participate. This is simply a small temple. Monk. You child. Lin Yangkai glared at her daughter. "I think she's pretty good, and she's not of the same virtue as those of the Xiao family. Mom is happy because she said that the third child knocked out her son's teeth." Zhou Jiping laughed. "In other words, the third child has a pretty good life there, and he has become the king and overlord. That tooth was hit by Xiaojie. What's the matter with Guanlao-san? That also shows that Xiao Yuan didn't take advantage of it. Tisk tisk, I really want to see what Xiao Yuan is like now." Zhou Jiping put down the insecticide with a look of regret. It was a waste of money. "Lu Lingmei is just a showman. I really don't understand. What is she doing here so stupidly?" The old lady Zhou curled her lips. She wanted to come over to see the joke, and by the way show that she is living a better life than us now. It's not really to find a place for Xiao Yuan. I have known her for so many years, and I can't even understand her small thoughts. Zhou Jiping blinked her eyes. It means that she regrets divorcing third uncle. How could she regret it? The old lady Zhou sneered. The Zhou family is in this state now. If she regrets it, then it's not her, she's just showing off, showing how correct her decision was at that time. I understand. Zhou Jiping pursed her lips and shook her head. I really don't understand why third uncle married her at that time. Before you get married, you can pretend, Mrs. Zhou said. I'm not pretending, Zhou Jiping said while embracing Chu Xia. My siblings are not pretending either. Knowing that she was showing her favor in a disguised form, Chu Xia gave her a big smile back, and she had nothing to be angry about Zhou Jiping's previous behavior. When something goes wrong, the first reaction is to blame others. The difference is that some people can figure it out, and some people will always be confused. Mrs. Zhou glanced at the two of them, and said, Chu Xia, don't be as knowledgeable as your second sister, she's just incompetent. Where am I out of my mind? Zhou Jiping argued, and looked at Chu Xia embarrassedly. Sisters and sisters, Grandpa said that the biggest shortcoming of me is impetuosity. I know it's none of your business, but I still can't help but blame you. Now that I think about it, I feel that I have gone too far. In fact, speaking of it, you are the most innocent one, and it's not your fault that you look good, right? And if it wasn't for you this time, how could Dad and the third child get this treatment? I'm also a member of the Zhou family, and I should do everything I should. Chu Xia didn't show politeness to her. It's a fact that Mr. Wan's help was in favor of her. Okay, family, don't say anything useless. Seeing what Joe Jipping wanted to say, the old lady Joe interrupted her with a wave of her hand. I'll be happy, let's make dumplings tonight, they don't you want to see our jokes? We just won't let them do what they want. Ring ring ring. I'm going to answer the phone. After a while, Joe Jipping came back with a smile on his face. Yuni's phone call, she said. Xiaomi slapped Xiao Yuan's face until it was swollen like a pig's head. Yuni is Joe Jipping's classmate and her best friend. It was the other party who gave her the news that Xiao Yuan went to find Zhou Mikang. Xiao Binky will not give up, but anyway, it's a life and death fight. If you fight, you will fight. If you fight well, you are worthy of being my grandson. Chu Xia has a dark hair, and now she has really discovered that Mrs. Zhou's character is exactly the same as Zhou Mikang's description. She is quite an interesting old lady. However, through this incident, the old lady recognized her so much, which really surprised her. Thinking that her parents must still be worried about this, Chu Xia hurriedly got up. I'll go back and talk to my parents. When I go out, I can tell by their expressions that they are too panicked. I'll go with you, Joe Jipping said as he walked out. Then, let's go and see Xiang Ping, she must be crazy at home. Mrs. Zhou hurriedly said, go to Wan Lao's place, and don't go to Liao's house. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 248. The second watch arrives. Are you afraid that Grandpa Liao will feel embarrassed? Joe Jipping couldn't help but roll her eyes after hearing the old lady's order not to go to Liao's house. Grandpa Liao's personality should also be changed. No matter how much he pretends, no one else will think that the Liao family is close to the Xiao family. It's been a lifetime, how can it be so easy to change? Mrs. Zhou couldn't help laughing as she spoke. This old man Liao has such a temper. No matter whose family is in trouble, he hides far away. Busy like a spinning top, his explanation was that, instead of being taken over by others, it is better to hide away and find a way. But the problem is, as Joe Jipping said, no matter how far he hides, the Zhou family and the Liao family are related by marriage. Can they still be regarded as close to the Liao family and the Xiao family? By the way, Jiping, don't talk too much about asking Mr. Wan if he can come over for dinner. Seeing that Joe Jipping and Chu Xia were about to leave the door, Mrs. Zhou urged again. I know, Joe Jipping responded, took Chu Xia's hand out of the door, and explained to Chu Xia, by the way, Grandma didn't let Grandpa Wan come to eat dumplings because she didn't have any opinion on Grandpa Wan, but because she was worried that Grandpa Wan would be embarrassed. Chu Xia nodded and said, I know. You know. Joe Jipping looked at Chu Xia in surprise, you really know? Tell me the details. Joe Jipping couldn't believe it. A little girl who grew up in the countryside can understand such things. Just like when I was in school, there was a monitor, a study committee member, and an entertainment committee member. Maybe you were close to the monitor, and I was close to the study committee member. He was close to the entertainment committee member. Among these three parties, it is possible that two of them will be rivals. For example, the competition between the class leader and the study committee members in learning, so people from both sides will want to win over people from the cultural and entertainment committee to strengthen their own strength. Before making a choice, the cultural and entertainment committee must of course maintain an equal relationship with the two parties, otherwise, it may be misunderstood that he has made a choice. Grandpa Wan now represents the best friend of the cultural and entertainment committee. The Xiao family and our family are friends of the class monitor and the study committee respectively. I understand it this way, right? Joe Jipping looked at Chu Xia with unconcealed admiration in his eyes. I found out. The third child is really discerning. Such a simple and easy to understand metaphor, but a thorough analysis of the matter. Brother and sister, you really surprised me. Chu Xia smiled and said nothing, but thought to herself, it seems that you all treat me as a little fool who has never seen the world. As far as the current series of actions is concerned, a little analysis will make it clear. Anyone surprised? When I met a few people on the road, I walked away from them, including Zhang Shui, who came here to congratulate Chu Xia when he and Zhou Mikang got married. That is, Zhou Xiangping's former love rival. At this time, we can see who can hand in and who can't. Zhou Jiping smiled and shook his head. Sometimes. It's not wrong for something like this to happen, at least. You can see some people clearly. Seeing Chu Xia nodded in response, Zhou Jiping looked at her with a smile. Siblings, do you regret marrying the third child? No. What else can she say? You were forced to marry in the first place, and you've already married, so what's the point of regretting it? But to be honest, before she got married, she was very repulsive, but now, she has begun to accept this marriage. The members of the Zhou family are easy to get along with, and they don't have much heirs. Even if she marries into an ordinary family, she may not be able to get along with them. As for love, in this day and age, love is a luxury, so she might as well forget about it. Chu Xia's answer made Zhou Jiping very happy, so she apologized to Chu Xia again for her previous bad attitude. Chu Xia interrupted her helplessly. Second sister, I can understand this matter, you don't need to explain, really. Okay, I won't talk anymore, let's see what I do next. Zhou Jiping smiled embarrassedly, and then promised, I will treat you the same as Xiangping in the future. Grandpa Wan. As soon as he entered the door, Zhou Jiping greeted Mr. Wan first, and laughed when he saw Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, who were busy making dumplings. Uncle Lin, Auntie, are you also making dumplings? Zhao Yulan said truthfully, yeah, I feel flustered when I'm idle, and I feel better when I have something to do. Mother, Father, you don't have to worry about Zhou Mikang, he is fine, and even beat up Xiao Yuan. Chu Xia explained in detail about Lu Yui and others going to Zhou's house. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe's expressions relaxed as expected. Their thoughts were the same as Chu Xia's, and if they could still beat someone up, it meant they were fine. However, he then asked worriedly, is Xiaomi not injured? No, this time it was Zhou Jiping who answered, my classmate works there, and she also called me, saying that my third child is fine and not hurt at all. That's good, that's good. Suddenly realizing that this might bring trouble to Mr. Wan, Zhao Yulan glanced at Mr. Wan nervously. Uncle Wan, you. I'm fine. Elder Wan waved his hand. Let me say, the beating is light, and anyone who dares to hit our little Chuxia's mind should be beaten to crawl back. Uncle Wan, I feel the same way. Lin Baohe found his bosom friend all of a sudden. Originally, he was a little afraid to approach Mr. Wan. Hearing what the other said, he put down the rolling pin in his hand, and shot an arrow in front of Mr. Wan. He said excitedly, when the matter is over, can Lao Wan let me beat him up? Father. Chu Xia stared at her father speechlessly, not knowing what to say. Lin Baohe also felt that he was a bit abrupt at this moment, rubbing his hands on the apron, with a look of embarrassment. Hey, Uncle Wan, how about I won't beat you up. It's okay, beat me up. Old man Wan signaled him to sit beside him, and slapped him. You're a good father, Baohe, you're really a good father, I'm not as good as you. Uncle Wan. Lin Baohe, who was praised, started to cry. Wan Lao continued, seeing you protecting Chu Xia so much, I feel that Yu Qiang is right to hate me. When did I protect her like this? I only cared about my work, and I basically didn't even look at her a few times, let alone protect her. Later, she broke away from me, didn't recognize me, and couldn't blame her. I have never brought her benefits, I only want to let her bear the suffering with me. How is that possible? Baohe, thank you for letting me know where I went wrong. Obviously, Yuqiang in his mouth should be his daughter. However, How many fathers like Lin Baohe are there in the world? She asked herself, if she were Wan Lao's daughter, would she abandon him in that situation? Live your life. Don't recognize him if you don't get benefits? The deity, or possibly, she, impossible. The education she has received since she was a child determines that it is impossible for her to do such a thing. However, is this a disguised explanation that Mr. Wan has neglected the education of his daughter? Lin Baohe was overwhelmed by what Mr. Wan said, so he turned his eyes to his daughter asking for help. Grandpa, don't blame yourself. If you feel sorry for Aunt Yukian, you should contact her more now and tell her what you think, Chu Xia said while sitting next to Mr. Wan, smiling. Take a move on his chessboard. Look, doesn't it suddenly make sense? Mr. Wan stared at the chessboard for a long time, then laughed loudly and patted his knees. Sure enough, I'm a fan of the authorities. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I just can't think of a way to crack it. Little girl, it's okay, I think it's my granddaughter's fault. It's really worth it. Zhao Yulan smiled and said, she's just walking around, so don't praise her. Lin Baohe was not happy, and refuted his wife, it's not walking around, our daughter must understand this thing, so she walked like this. Okay, your daughter understands, you. Zhao Yulan smiled helplessly. Uncle Wan, Jiping, the head of our family has such a temper, as long as it is about his daughter, there is nothing wrong with it. Siblings and sisters are so happy, Zhou Jiping said enviously, my dad never protects us like this. Then he looked at Mr. Wan, Grandpa Wan, don't blame yourself too much, someone like Uncle Lin father, don't look around in the world, you said you failed to take care of Aunt Yukian, how could my dad take care of us? When I was 5 years old, I couldn't remember what my dad looked like. Every time he came home in the middle of the night, he would leave before dawn. Our brothers and sisters were all brought up by my mother and my grandparents. Well, I've overcorrected a bit. Fathers like Baohe are indeed rarely found. Elder Wan sighed, however, what Chu Xia said is right. Now that I realize it, it's not too late to mend the situation. If my daughter doesn't accept what I do now, it only shows that our father and daughter have a shallow relationship, and this is the way it is in this life. This topic was a bit heavy, and Zhou Jiping didn't know how to persuade her, so she got up and said goodbye. Grandpa Wan, I have to go to Grandpa Liao's house. My sister is locked up by Grandpa Liao and is not allowed to come out. I guess she is in a hurry. It's broken, I'm going to tell her about the situation at home. Go. Mr. Wan smiled helplessly. Old Liao has such a temper, he is a good man, and he has been busy with your family's affairs these 2 days, don't blame him, he was once. If a snake bites you, you will be afraid of well ropes for 10 years. Zhou Jiping nodded, I know, my grandma also said that he is a good person. Seeing Chu Xia standing up, she held her down, you don't have to go with me, stay at home with Uncle Lin and Aunt Zhao, and at night let's eat here. After hesitating for a moment, Chu Xia nodded, okay. Watching Zhou Jiping go out, Mr. Wan took a long breath and looked at Chu Xia, the Zhou family is good, you married a good husband. Chu Xia nodded, I know, Grandpa, I am content. Uncle Wan, does the Zhou family really need money now? Lin Baohe asked suddenly. Mr. Wan shook his head, it's not about money. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 249. It's 3 o'clock. For a family like the Zhou family, the issue of money is really not an issue. Mr. Wan added again, and Ger changed his tone, but, how to do it is up to you to decide. I see, Uncle Wan, thank you. Lin Baohe got up and continued to roll out the dough, but absent-mindedly rolled the dough into various shapes such as long, square, and round. Sister-in-law Yin wanted to help, but thought of Mr. Wan's advice, but she couldn't help it. In order to keep Lin Baohe and his wife busy, Mr. Wan forbade her to help her. Zhao Yulan deliberately reminded Lin Baohe a few words, and swallowed the words again. Of course she understood what her husband was thinking. Forget it, don't interrupt him, let him think about it. Chu Xia now has a good understanding of Lin Baohe's character, and after seeing his appearance, he understands half of it, so he reluctantly leans over. Isn't it because Dad wants to give all the money in the family to the Zhou family, and also wants to give the house to the Zhou family? It's sold, and you're worried that no one will buy it. Lin Baohe didn't hide it from his daughter. Yes, our house is worth a lot of money, but we don't know if someone can buy it, and we can't help with other things, whether it is useful or not. This is our intention. Father, the Zhou family built the house, Chu Xia reminded. Then it should be sold. Zhao Yulan immediately echoed, yes, it should be sold. Chu Xia was even more helpless. Even if it is sold, this little money won't cover anything. The Zhou family doesn't lack this, so don't worry about it. Lin Baohe said with a firm expression, that won't work, this is our Lin family's wish. Zhao Yulan nodded hastily, your father is right, we work as hard as we can. How can we just enjoy the good and not the suffering? The couple cooperated tacitly, and based on Chu Xia's understanding of their character that 10 cows can't pull back this matter. It is estimated that her persuasion is useless. I had no choice but to pin my hopes on Mr. Wan. After receiving her pleading gaze, Mr. Wan pretended to be okay, and said, Chu Xia, this is your parents' wishes. If you should have it, you will have it sooner or later. If you shouldn't have it, you will lose it sooner or later. You let them take advantage of it hard, they can be at ease. Uncle Wan, you really know me so well. Lin Baohe put down his rolling pin excitedly, and greeted Mrs. Yin, please come, I'll go to the train station to buy a ticket for tomorrow morning. This is really saying that the wind is the rain. Chu Xia wanted to stop her again, but Zhao Yulan shook her head at her, you don't know what kind of temper your father has. Chu Xia said helplessly, I think this is unrealistic. Our house is not in the city, who would spend so much money to live in an unfamiliar place? Then you have to let your father try, otherwise, how can he feel at ease? Father and mother are not afraid of people laughing at me, no way. Chu Xia had no choice but to use this as an example. I can't hide it, and your second aunt and Qian are just like them. If you can't go back, you have to write a letter to bring this matter back. Seeing that the whole family had decided, Mr. Wan said, Baohe, I'll have someone book the train tickets for you, and I'll pick them up at the train station tomorrow. Don't go at night. You guys will go back now, Grandpa, Grandma and the others must be looking for trouble, and it's ugly. Chu Xia said with a drooping head. How many days are left of her wedding leave? It's really inconvenient to accompany her back. Moreover, she doesn't know what to say when she goes back now. However, she couldn't bear to let her parents go back to face those top relatives like this. It was precisely to avoid causing trouble for her that her parents insisted not to let grandparents, uncles, and uncles come to the wedding. After learning that something happened to the family she married, how could they let go of this good opportunity to ridicule people? Besides, from a big house to a small black house, parents have to bear too much psychological pressure. In the eyes of the folks, even if her husband's family was arrested for an accident, and if she calms down later, she can't deliberately communicate with the folks. Explain that even if you can buy it back in the future, or build a new one, the stain will always be a stain. Zhao Yulan persuaded her daughter softly, Xia, although people live a skin, they can't be brave for the sake of the skin. Father and mother are not afraid of what others say. As long as Xia has a good life and a good life in her in-laws' house, parents, everything is worth it. Let Jingzhe take you to the station, old Master Wan said, looking at Chuxia. Chuxia went to Lao Jing's house. Jingzhe is your brother, he should do this kind of thing. Chuxia was a little hesitant. After all, Jingzhe had meant something to her, and Zhu Xingkan had wanted her to be his daughter-in-law. At this time, she went to the Jing family to ask Jingzhe for help. What did the Zhou family think? Seeing her thoughts, old man Wan said, you can't just stop interacting with people for the sake of your in-law's family. Don't forget, it was old man Jing who first wanted to recognize you as a granddaughter. As for your husband, this matter was originally arranged by him. Now, if he is unhappy because you asked the Jing family for help, it means that he is too narrow-minded. Okay, I'll go to Jingzhe for help. When Mr. Wan said this, if she hesitated again, it would really discredit the Zhou family. After all, the relationship between Mr. Wan and the Zhou family is delicate. Whether it's out of selfishness or something, she doesn't want Mr. Wan to have a bad impression of the Zhou family. When they arrived at Jing's house, Zhu Xingkan was very happy when she heard about Chuxia's visit, and immediately called Jingzhe out of the study and asked him to agree quickly. Seeing that Chuxia was embarrassed by Zhu Xingkan's enthusiasm, Jingzhe smiled. Chuxia, don't let my mother's enthusiasm frighten her, she is trying her best to compare with Aunt Lin. You will know after getting along for a long time. Yes, my mother and Aunt Lin are just a pair of children. That's right. Mr. Jing and Ms. Jing nodded in unison. Back home, Mr. Jing regained his image of an old urchin. Since Chuxia entered the door, the old couple grinned with toothless mouths and watched the interaction between Zhu Xingkan's mother and son and Chuxia as if they were watching a play. Lin Yangqiu is a child, I'm not. Zhu Xingkan laughed again as she spoke. Forget it, she will encounter these things now, so I won't be as knowledgeable as her. Don't worry, Chuxia, I won't show off in front of her, making it difficult for you. I'll take you home, Jingzhe said as he tugged on Chuxia's sleeves and walked out. By the way, I'll also try Uncle Lin and Aunt Zhao's handicrafts. Zhu Xingkan hurriedly said, I'll go too, I'll go too. We're going to. Mr. Jing and Ms. Jing scrambled to stand up, as if they were afraid of leaving them behind. Stay honestly at home. Jingzhe turned his head and glared at the others. If you didn't make Chuxia feel uncomfortable, why should I be in such a hurry to send her back? It's not like you don't know how uncomfortable she felt when she came to me for help, and you all added to the chaos one by one. Grandpa Zhu and Grandma Zhu don't go to Grandpa Wan's house for dinner. What's your share? This child. Zhu Xingkan smiled sheepishly, and retreated. If you don't go, then don't go, what's the big deal, we'll take care of it ourselves. Mr. Jing and Ms. Jing pointed at Zhu Xingkan together. You. Okay, okay, I'll make it, Zhu Xingkan said while yelling at the kitchen nanny. Sister-in-law Li, let's eat dumplings tonight, you can chop the stuffing. Mr. Jing and Ms. Jing sat back contentedly, and saw that the door was closed, and the figures of Jingzhe and Chuxia disappeared. The old couple looked at Jian and rushed to the windowsill. A short Ms. Jing anxiously grabbed Mr. Jing's sleeve and shook it back and forth. I can't see it, move the stool for me quickly, hurry up. Let me be like a chin, Mr. Jing said without looking back. Here we come. Zhu Xingkan put a stool under the old lady's feet, helped her to stand up, and stretched her neck to look down. Chuxia, I bet you that there must be 3 heads crowded on my window. Jingzhe, who came out of the corridor, said as he turned his head and pointed to the window, and the heads on the window disappeared. Chuxia glanced back for a while. No. It must have been too hasty to withdraw just now, and touched his head, otherwise, he would have stretched out his head again, Jingzhe said firmly. Chuxia laughed. It seems that you brought girls back before, and they all did this, right? Yeah, in the past, as long as a female friend came to my house to play, my mother and my grandparents were as if they had been beaten with chicken blood, and they would not listen to any persuasion. But every time I sent someone away and came back, I found that the 3 of them were rubbing each other. Head. He was right, At this moment, Mrs. Jing and Zhu Zinken were sitting under the window rubbing each other's heads. The dead boy is necrotic, on purpose. That's right, I've been playing like this since I was a child, and it's been so disobedient to still play like this after all these years. Okay, you two are stupid, you touch my head every time, hiss, it hurts me to death, help me check, have you picked up your bag? Mrs. Lee, who was chopping stuffing in the kitchen, hadn't seen this kind of scene for several years. It was strange that she not only didn't find it funny, but actually felt sore in her heart. She unconsciously wiped away tears while chopping stuffing. Early the next morning, Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan were sent to the train by Jing Zhe and Chu Xia. Before they left, the couple held Chu Xia's hand and told her not to tell her about their going back to sell the house. The Zhou family has repeatedly promised that as soon as the house is sold, they will come over immediately, and they will bring the family's passbook with them. Until the train left, Chu Xia still watched for a long time and refused to leave. How lucky is she to have such parents? Let's go. Jing Zhe looked at Chu Xia, whose little face was frozen red, with some distress. Good people are rewarded with good things, and everything will be fine. Chu Xia sniffed and smiled at him. Well, I'm sorry to trouble you to wake up so early. Jing Zhe rubbed her head with a smile. Silly girl, I'm your brother. How common is it to say such things? Okay, I won't see each other with my brother, Chu Xia said yearningly. I have longed for a brother to love me since I was a child, and now, my wish has finally come true. I've always been looking forward to having a younger sister who I can protect, and now, my wish has finally come true. The red sun is rising slowly, looking at Chu Xia standing opposite her, smiling brighter than the sun. How can Jing Zhe not understand what she means? While feeling a little lost in my heart, I was relieved. I can let go. My sister is also for a lifetime. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 250. Girl, let's go, I'll take you to eat delicious food. Jing Zhe dragged Chu Xia's arm and walked out of the platform. For Chu Xia, who came from later generations, he wouldn't be ashamed of being dragged by his arm, but, what is the trouble? He raised his head and looked at Jing Zhe with a puzzled look on his face. Instead, he stared at Jing Zhe with a blushing face. You are my sister, of course I will take you to eat delicious food. Okay, Chu Xia nodded cheerfully. I want porridge and fried dough sticks. Jing Zhe looked at her with black eyes. Isn't your request too low? I also want to take you to eat the crab roe buns from Xiahonglu. That's really delicious. I just want to eat fried dough sticks with porridge, that crab roe bun, and I'll eat them later, Chu Xia insisted. She really likes fried dough sticks of this era. The taste is not at all the same as the fried dough sticks of her era. Living in Zhou's and Wan's homes these days, breakfast is made of steamed stuffed buns, dumplings, scallion pancakes, etc. She is so hungry for deep fried dough sticks. Although eating too much of this food is not good for your health, but who told her to take a good bite? Okay, Jing Zhe shook his head helplessly. He was the one to treat guests, of course he had to listen to the Lord, since he was driving anyway, so he would have to worry about where to eat. After getting into the car, Chu Xia looked Jing Zhe up and down. Uncomfortable being watched by her, Jing Zhe coughed lightly. What are you aiming at? Brother, do you also have research on dentistry? Knowing that she was referring to the matter of knocking out Xiao Yuan's teeth, Jing Zhe laughed. I just need to know about teeth and I'm good at it. I don't need to be proficient in dentistry. Let me just say, you're not a macho man, and you can knock out your teeth with strength alone. It will definitely hurt your hands, especially your hands are white and tender. Stop, stop. Jing Zhe interrupted her. My hands are not white and tender, girl. I'll talk about the adjective after I think about it. It's true that his fingers are long and fair, but they have nothing to do with tenderness. The two talked and laughed all the way, and when they got off the car, they got along naturally and comfortably. Little red mansion, looking at the antique door face in front of him, Chusia muttered something, thinking of the red mansion case in later generations. He unconsciously twitched the corners of his mouth. Jingzhe thought she was questioning this place, so she explained, the breakfast at Xiahonglu's is still very famous, fried dough sticks. Xiaolongbao is his specialty, and their golden porridge is also good. The two ordered 3 tails of fried dough sticks, a cage of steamed buns, and 2 bowls of golden porridge. The so-called golden porridge. It is the porridge made of corn and pumpkin. It looks sticky and soft. When you take a spoonful of it, Chusia can't help but praise, it's delicious. It's delicious. It's really delicious. Jingzhe looked at her dotingly, if you like it, I will bring you to eat tomorrow. Then why are you so embarrassed? Chusia raised his head, showing embarrassment. I'm your brother. What's the matter? Okay, Chusia nodded with squinted eyes, think I'm really polite to you? You are my brother, you should spoil me. If I want to eat in the future, brother will bring me to eat. Okay, Jingzhe picked up a steamed bun. Soft foreskin, fragrant meat filling. In the past, he only thought that the Xiaolongbao tasted good, but never like today, he felt that this was simply the most beautiful delicacy in the world. When Chusia picked up a small steamed bun, she burst out laughing, remembering the dumplings from last night. Because of her father's absent-minded rolling of the dumplings, a lot of dumplings were broken, and Grandpa Wan was also bad, so he picked a bowl of bad ones for Jingzhe, saying that he is a boy, and he should take the delicious dumplings. Leave it to my sister. Brother, were the dumplings delicious last night? Huh, Jingzhe was taken aback, looking into her bright eyes, couldn't help but reached out and rubbed her head, of course it's delicious, can the dumplings made by uncle and aunt be delicious? Su, Chusia pouted at him, that bowl of dumpling wrappers, do you taste like dumplings? It's delicious, tisk tisk. Both of you, do you mind if I sit here? A thick and honest voice with a smile sounded. Chusia looked up and saw a robust man of 26 or 17 years old standing by the table. She didn't know if Jingzhe knew this person, so she couldn't answer, so she looked at Jingzhe. Prince Mei, can't you eat after leaving here? Jingzhe looked at the man with a flat face, you're here to show off, you won. Old Jing, that's your fault. We were classmates, and you don't know my character, am I that kind of person? The man sat next to Jingzhe regardless, and smiled at Chusia, hello, my name is Mei Yitong, and I'm Jingzhe's old classmate. A barrel of coal, Chusia grinned, good name. Jingzhe, are these future siblings? Mei Yitong looked at Jingzhe and smiled, what a naughty little girl. Chusia immediately had goosebumps all over her body, words like so naughty, my wife, it's unbearable. Jingzhe didn't push him away anymore, he nodded his chin in the direction of Chusia, and introduced, this is my sister. Since when did you have a younger sister? Mei Yitong was surprised. I have to report to you too, Jingzhe snorted, aren't you caring too much? Look at you, every time you see me, you look like you've taken gunpowder. You said, I didn't borrow you money and didn't pay it back, and I didn't snatch your girlfriend. Why did you attack me like that? What does it look like? Mei Yitong said while making a sad face and rushed to Chusia, sister, do you think brother is pleasing to the eye? Chusia glanced at him, it's not pleasing to the eye. Ha ha. Mei Yitong laughed, naughty little girl. The goosebumps on Chusia's body that had just fallen immediately swelled up again, and his heart felt numb and uncomfortable, so he pointed at Xia Yitong with hatred, say that again, be careful and I'll beat you to death. The corners of Jingzhe's mouth twitched, and the smile spread quickly, a bucket of coal, you hear that, my sister doesn't welcome you, go to another place to eat, don't be an eyesore here. The corner of Chusia's mouth twitched, a barrel of coal, a good name. Sister, Why do I hate you so much? Mei Yitong looked at Chuxia inexplicably. I'm praising you, can't you tell? Jingzhe looked at him, and said slowly, you took the lead to arrest her husband, can she like you? Her husband? Mei Yitong looked Chuxia up and down. How old is she? She already has a husband. Suddenly she slapped her forehead. Her husband can't be Zhou Mikang, right? It's not too stupid. Jingzhe patted Mei Yitong's shoulder with a big hand. After Zhou Mikang comes out, he won't spare you, just wait. No, Mei Yitong smirked, I won't let you off, right? When he was locked up, you took his new wife out for dinner. What nonsense, Jingzhe interrupted him, and said with a serious face, I told you, Chuxia is my younger sister, you don't understand human language, do you?